Mayor Rich Claudy, thank you for being here. Your next congressman to be, Danny Webster. And we have Senator Kerry is here. And Mike Horner, where's Mike? I didn't see Mike. I heard he spoke earlier today. And I want to thank you all, but I want to tell you that Rick and I really, really appreciate your diligence in being here and taking time from your busy schedule and supporting us and supporting our agenda, because we are going to take over the state and turn it around to make it much better.
Yeah!
At this time, I'd like my partner in crime, Mr. Rick Scott. We're calling you up on stage, so let's give it up for Rick Scott.
What a great day to be an American, right?
Yeah.
So first off, sorry we're so late. Gosh, I bet it's hot here. At least it's not July. It could be a lot worse, right? So it's plenty hot. So thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you everyone for all your hard work. You know, God bless America, that we live in the greatest country ever, and we're going to make sure it's even better. We're going to save our country, all the things we're doing right now. It's ours to lose, and as Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. We're going to create the future that we want for ourselves, our kids, and our grandkids. So thanks for coming. Let me introduce a couple people. This is my wife, Ann. We met in high school. We've been married 38 years now. We got married when we were 19 years old. And we have two wonderful daughters, a 27-year-old and a 25-year-old. So, and she's put up with all the things I've tried to do in my life, including becoming your next governor. This is my mom, Esther Scott. She seems really nice right now. She wasn't. You know how corporal punishment must be bad? It was never a problem for her. She never had any. She never felt guilty about it. My older brother was a perfect kid. I wasn't. She had this yardstick that never broke. So we are here to turn our state around. We're here to get our state back to work. That's exactly what we're going to do. Only in America can you start out in public housing with parents that always struggle with 5 kids and end up as a Republican candidate for governor and the next governor of this great state. So now I want to introduce the governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal, and possibly the next president of the United States.
Let me tell you why this election is so important. This is one of the most important elections for Florida. And let me tell you, you've got a clear choice. You've got one side that thinks the answer to every problem is more government spending, more taxes, more borrowing.
No.
And if you believe that, you're in the wrong route. You've got a clear choice. You've got a candidate in Rick Scott who understands that what makes this country great is not our government, that we don't need to send any more money to the state capital, to the national capital, but rather we need to create jobs for our children and our grandchildren. Anybody that believes the government is the answer to every one of our problems, let me remind you of this oil spill. Let me remind you of the hurricanes that have hit your state and my state. I'll just tell you one story. One story about Louisiana that shows you that the brilliance of America, the brilliance of Florida, the brilliance of Louisiana are our people. It's not our government, it's our people. Many of you saw the images, many of you saw the impact of that oil on the coast, on the beaches. Let me tell you, in Louisiana, that heavy oil sat in our wetlands not for days, but for weeks. We went to the federal government and said, what is your plan to clean up this oil?
Didn't have one, did they?
They said, well, we're going to use absorbent pads to pick it up. We said, once they get saturated, what's your next plan? They said, well, if that doesn't work, we're going to burn the wetlands to save the wetlands. I said, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. Why don't you go vacuum that oil up using a vacuum truck? They said, governor, you can't drive a truck down to the mouth of the river. What's wrong with you? You can't put a truck out in the water. I said, why don't you put a truck on the back of a boat and go suck up that oil? You know what the answer was? It's a typical government response. I said, well, we've never done that before. Don't you hate it when government does that? I said, well, why don't you try? They refused to do it. We told our National Guard. They built 2 prototypes. We literally put a truck, same kind of truck that cleans up the porta potties. I kid you not. On the back of a pontoon bridge, went down there, picked up thousands of gallons of oil. Stepped up to the plate and they said, Governor, don't put a truck on a bridge. They said, put an industrial pump on a barge. We did it dozens of times. And then we got a call from the federal government. You know what happens next? They said, we want to shut you down.
No life preservers, huh?
I said, why do you want to shut it down? And they said, well, we got to check the valves on your barges. I said, what are you checking for? They said, well, if you're not using the right valve, you might drop a couple of drops of oil back in the water. I said, we're picking up thousands of gallons of oil. You worry about drops? The next day, they came back and said, well, never mind the valves, but you're exactly right. They wanted to count the number of fire extinguishers and life preservers on these barges. We said, why can't you count while they're still working? They said, the rules are the rules. We got to do our certification process. They got to be in port for 24 hours. I went out there to the ports to see for myself. Miraculously, they changed their minds and said they didn't need to do the inspections after all. Let those barges get back to work. Anybody that ever tells you the government's going to solve all your problems, tell them you know better. You've seen what they did during the oil spill. You've seen what they did after the hurricane. You've seen that there's never been a state, never been a country in this world that has taxed, spent, or barred its way into prosperity. We're not going to become the first country that does that. Now, this race is an important race for Florida. There's another side. The other candidate believes that President Obama's policies are good for Florida. She believes more taxing, more spending, and borrowing is good for Florida. We've already got a $14 trillion deficit. $45,000 for every American. $100,000 for every family. They've got a plan. They want to double it over the next decade to almost $26 trillion. They're not spending your money. They're spending your children's money. They're spending your grandchildren's money.
And your great-grandchildren.
And your great-grandchildren.
That's right.
And when the stimulus doesn't work, they just want to spend more of your money. Rick Scott understands there's a different way to create jobs for Florida.
Right.
The experts will say you can't do it. I'm here to tell you they're wrong. They said I couldn't do it in Louisiana. Let me tell you something. They used to have a saying about Louisiana. They used to say Louisiana was half underwater, half under indictment any given moment in time. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. You all used to love to make fun of Louisiana politicians. A bunch of crooked, entertaining politicians. The only good thing they did was they made Florida politicians look better. That was the only good thing they did. Well, that's no longer true. We passed the toughest ethics laws in the country. Went from 44th worst according to the Center for Public Integrity for legislative disclosure to #1 in the country. We have cut taxes several times. This year alone, we cut spending over $4 billion, 14%, cut thousands of government positions, sold over 1,000 government cars. We made this commitment to our people. As long as I'm governor, we're not raising taxes. We're going to cut spending. We're going to live within our means just like every family and business has to do in Florida and in America.
Let the people keep their money.
Let the people keep their money. That's exactly right. Every government faces a fundamental choice right now during this recession. Do you make the tough choices in government, or do you shift that burden to families and businesses working to pay their bills? Rick Scott understands he wants to be governor, so you make the tough choices in government. He does not want to shift that burden to you or to your businesses, and it works. The Louisiana portfolio says we've got the second best economy in the country. Gallup says we're the third best at creating jobs. Rick Scott wants to bring that kind of conservative fiscal leadership right here to Florida. There are two fundamental approaches at stake in this election. The choice couldn't be clearer. On one side, they want to tax, spend, borrow their way to prosperity. It's never worked before. It's not going to work now. On the other side, you've got Rick Scott working hard for Florida, standing up for hard-working Florida families, saying that the answer to our problems lies in the creation of private sector jobs to put our people back to work. As I wrap up, I want to say this. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world.
Amen.
And it is time to take our government back. Let's remind the elected politicians they work for us, not to other way around. Polls don't win elections. Contributions don't win elections. Rallies don't win elections. What wins elections is, I want to thank you for standing out here in this seat, but you need to go home, tell your friends, your neighbors, everybody you know, they need to vote for Rick Scott, because this isn't just about us. This is about our children and our grandchildren. Vote for a new Florida. Vote for a better future for your children.